Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, I'm once again taking a look at one of your designs that you recommended me on Mod.io. And for today we're looking at another large racer-like ship that has a very sleek overall design and simply called the LWY-35 Musketeer MK2, and it's a revised version, but it's this lovely thing all the way over here. So this ship features a bunch of moving parts where if you were to come all the way over to the rear cockpit, the lid can open and close all the way down via a hinge. Now you're probably thinking that's not really too unique, but what is unique about this is this whole middle section right here will slide all the way forwards and all the way backwards, like it has a massive system in place to actually lift up and close up that lid. For a demonstration, pressing number 9, there we go, it lifts all the way up, that slides all the way forwards, looking at it like so, doing it again, and there we are. This is a very simple thing that adds to the overall aesthetics of this ship. And the way that's been done is via a piston and a hinge right here, so the hinge is angling it all the way up, and there's a piston that will slide all the way forwards and all the way backwards as well to open and close the canopy. And then all the way down below the ship, we'll talk about this section in just a second. Yes, down to here, we've got the traditional landing legs, so pop all the way out, pressing number 8, they come all the way down via a hinge, on the piston, on another hinge, on the magnetic plates, that clamp down onto the ground. But unlike a lot of ships, it's not going to do the same at the front. No, when you land this thing down onto the ground, the ship will be at an angle to be able to walk all the way up on the front here and go all the way up towards the back, but needing to use your jetpack while needing to use a ladder to get to the cockpit. Come all the way down once again, putting on my light, pushing them all the way back up, and there we are, just slides all the way up into the vehicle, and well, it just pretends like it's not there. Yes, over here, now this is a very odd section, because when I first saw this on Mod.io's page, when I spawned it in, I was actually quite surprised it didn't get flagged up for not having any kind of mod on here. So when I saw this section, I was like, yeah, that's absolutely modded. But no, it's simply the flat atmospheric thruster with some armored panels on the front of it. And if you want to recreate that yourself on your ships or on your vehicles or on whatever, all you got to do, grab one of the flat atmospheric thrusters, face the thruster nozzle away from you, then simply put armored panels on the back here, and if I change the colour, there we are, it simply clips all the way through and creates a nice little effect on the back side. Yes, just getting rid of that, that's how that's been done and why it looks like so. Anyway, my character can just stay there for the moment. I'll zoom all the way away, press F10, find it in spawn menu, and here we go. So the Musketeer MK2 is 808 small blocks using a bunch of the DLC packs, and well, we do have one script on here, which is a subgrid thruster script, which is very much needed for the ship to give it that overall shape. We've got no other bits of information about it, so simply give this a thumbs up, which I already have. Move around towards the very front, which I'm going to be calling this section. Have a look around the outside, then we'll go through the controls, and then we'll drive around on the Earth-like planet. I'm using this in space despite it being an actual atmospheric ship, because it is a lot easier to actually showcase, because it's sitting against a dark skybox, it makes it show up a lot more nicer in the videos. But yes, down to here, this is what we get for the very front of the Musketeer MK2. Oh, that's a bunch of these purpley blue armored panels to make up the front spikes, as well as our fins at the side of the ship. Down below here is your front magnetic plate, clamp yourself down on. We already talked about them with the rear magnetic plate, and of course the landing legs in general. Round onto the side, there were the armored panels that comes all the way across some grey steel blocks to make up the main base of the vehicle, and of course we'll also be protecting the bottom of the vehicle from any kind of lumps and bumps. As we come all the way along towards this section, we've got some yellow armored panels, just breaking up the side sections. Then we come all the way across over this part which we just talked about, which is the flat atmospheric thruster with the armored panels on top. Ignoring that bit for the moment, continuing all the way across, and then got some white steel blocks in a very clean skin, and was all the way around towards the very back, where we're going to have a bunch of atmospheric thrusters. But turning my attention all the way back around onto this part, here we go. So down below here is where your flat atmospheric thrusters are sitting, so we've got two side by side, but one of them is angled down, that's going to be thanks to a hinge hidden away on the inside. Looking at it like so, there we are, where how it's been angled all the way across. Into this part we see a gyroscope actually move it around. Down here, your landing legs, and of course the double hinge onto a piston onto a hinge. Then towards the very back here, some sickly green beam blocks come across to a light that will shine right behind the ship. We've got some normal atmospheric thruster, another flat atmospheric thruster for your left and right, a large atmospheric thruster to give you a nice boost of speed, and there is one on the opposite side. Up in this part is a barrel for you to store a few bits and pieces inside, but largely it's there for some decoration, much like the exhaust block sitting right next to it. Yes, down here, flat atmospheric thruster, large reactor to give a nice bit of power, and that reactor is centralized at the very back of the ship, and has been partially covered up by some armored panels, almost as if it's been basically gripped in place by them. Yes, under there we see our barrel for the opposite side, there's the other large atmospheric thruster, turning my light and moving away. There we go. Turning off, moving up, There's of course your exhaust blocks, we talked about them, right next to the barrels. All the way up to here, we've got some darker purpley blocks. We've got armor panels on the central section at the back, and of course your large atmospheric thrusters being coloured that as well. And they've got a green light and a red light, respectively, on the top of them. Across to here, here's the top of your cockpit to get inside. Yes, as we see here, we've got two buttons, which are actual functional buttons, which we can use to open and close the cockpit to get inside if we want to do that. So if for whatever reason you are stuck on the outside, with the lid closed like I am right now, wherever the ship has gone. Where has the ship gone? Here we go, apparently my character was nowhere near the ship for whatever reason. Yes, we can come to the button, press that, that'll open up, that'll slide forwards, allow you to hop inside. And of course we can turn on that reactor at the back there, that'll close all the way up. And we are now ready to fly this thing around. Yes, that's why those buttons are there, and they are once again in that sickly green colour. Moving across, oh, that's a bit quick, we see the flat atmospheric thrust on the opposite side, once again clipping through some armoured panels. This middle section, what we talked about with the cockpit, where it slides all the way forwards, thanks to a hinge and a piston. Then all the way towards the front, SC spikes at the very front. And just quickly shoving the camera all the way through here, to pass this section, past all of these batteries, we'll eventually come across to here, where we've got, once again, a hinge and piston for that sliding motion. But all the way through this section, we're going to have a bunch of gobbledygook, which is your hinge to lift up the canopy, but also some hinges, some rotors that come all the way across an angle this top section right here, which is how these atmospheric thrusters on the side, flat atmospheric thrusters, have been angled and go all the way towards the front. So yes, that's how that's been done, and that's why there's a gap right in the middle there. Anyway, yes, we're going to come all the way down below it. Here we go, so at the very front here, not too much to talk about other than that magnetic plate. Over here, a bunch of small atmospheric thrusters to help keep you off the ground, as well as move left and right. Towards the main body, here's of course your landing legs all the way down, allow you to clamp onto the ground, as well as your flat atmospheric thrusters, but we've talked about them enough. Then towards the back, there's connected to dock it up. There's your large atmospheric thrusters, with once again a green and red light on them. And then towards the back there we are. I suppose what I can do is just move away slightly, bring the sight back around so you can see clear view what's going on without having the engine's torch turned on. And that'll do quite nicely. Should have done that from the start. Yes, there's a clear view, the very back of what's going on. But with that, now I've got to bring the sunlight back around, but that is it for the outside of the Musketeer MK2. And what it looks like, it looks bloody glorious how it's been designed. That looks absolutely fantastic for a racing ship just darting around a planet or a moon. Of course, if you really want to go an extra step, because it does kind of look like a spearhead for how it's been designed, you could always build out this back section with a massive pole and just use it to ram into an enemy. Of course, that would defeat the point of the ship, and it would crumple very, very quickly. Or at least that's what I found when testing this. Grabbing hold of my character, bring out the HUD, these are the only controls we get. So starting on tab number 2, we've got our batteries on and off, and our reactors on and off. Then we're to tab number 1, your main controls. It's going to be your connector below the chip to lock and unlock it, your spotlights to turn them on and off, suppressing number 5. There we are, got a nice big glow coming off the back, and all the way around it, making the sunlight go away once again. There we go. And we just about make out the trail at the back there. And that's all it does. Number 6 is then for your interior lights to turn them on and off. There we go. Number 7 is then for your magnetic plates below the ship to lock and unlock them. Number 8 is then for the landing legs themselves to fold all the way down. And then move all the way up. Then finally, once again, number 9 to lift up the canopy, and of course slide that middle section all the way forwards. In first person view looking round, there we are, so we see our LCD screens are all turned off, pressing again, and then they just pop online. Down to here we see a program block with our subgrid thruster manager, which is very useful for any ship that use thrusters on subgrids and actually want to have them properly functional. And of course we've got our time of day, the logo, we see our gravity, and of course we've got our hydrogen and power usage. And with that, that's it for the controls, that's it for the outside. All I've got to do now is take it down to our planet, then we'll go and fly it around. So here we are on the Earth-like planet surrounded by the snowy mountains. We're going to move forwards, and this is what we get. So as you expect, we've got a nice lot of speed behind this thing, so you should be able to get to your destination in a very short amount of time. Coming to a stop, we are quite a bit slower, but we do have plenty of gyroscopes on here, so you can just easily flick this around and stop yourself a hell of a lot quicker. There we go. If I got the wrong angle there. There we are, that should do quite nicely. Moving left. And moving right. Very slow with that, that's to be expected from a racer-like ship. Moving down is going to be helped by gravity, so it should be, well, depending on what planet you're on. And moving up should be quite similar to moving forwards, or basically the second fastest thing on this ship. First person view once again, moving around, this is what we get. Plenty of control all the way over to this thing. But you have to be a little bit careful, because due to the fact it's using a lot of subgrids on here, it can be a little bit wonky or slightly unusual if you're not familiar with flying these ships. What I mean about that is basically when you move it around, it tends to just snap in place, which is very odd. And of course, if you were to wiggle it around, sometimes weird things start to happen. Something goes clang, and now you're sort of just being magnetically pulled in one direction. Other than that, that's pretty much it for this ship. All we've got to do now is slam it into the ground and see how it crumples. 3, 2, 1. Very slow with that. And there we go. We just completely disappear into the ground. But for whatever reason, it feels like I can still fly this thing around. If I can tilt the nose up, you could definitely fly this thing around. In fact, if I can turn it on its side, maybe that'll work. I don't think that's going to work. So with the free camera once again, dropping it down. And there we are. So for a full speed collision into the ground, looking around here, what have we lost? And really, not too much. In fact, what we've broken on this ship doesn't really make too much sense compared to what we actually slammed into the ground with. The front here feels like it's in a lot more better condition than the side of the ship. But yes, we can still fly this thing around. We've still got plenty of thrust around here. Can I move the magnet plates down? Yes, I can. Can I lift that all the way up? Yes, I can. There's no issues whatsoever. But we can now see the front of that thing sliding forwards and moving backwards. But other than that, it's a fantastic looking ship, and I highly recommend downloading it, checking it out yourself, especially for the cockpit section in the middle. It doesn't do anything special, just simply sliding forwards and backwards when you open the lid, but it does add that extra bit of specialness to the ship that makes it unique and stand out from a crowd. So be linked to the description below to which download and play around yourself. Highly recommend you do. I'll be back with another video somewhere soon. Bye bye.